Moving to France completely flipped my life upside down. Well, in the best way possible. Because back in the Philippines, I was always rushing, hustling, and chasing deadline. But here, the French live by a totally different rhythm. By slowing down, I've actually become more productive. So after almost 2 years of living here, I've realized that stepping into a culture so different from my own has taught me a new way to live. So in today's video, I'm sharing the 4 attitudes that have improved my life and how they can help you get more done by doing less. Let's dive in. You've probably heard this before. The French don't live for work and they don't live for money. And honestly, it's so true. They prioritize what really matters and you see it everywhere. People sitting in the cafe for hours just by watching the world go by. No rush, no guilt, just being present. For me, it was a complete culture shock at first. Because back when I was an early childhood educator in Paris, I was so used to being hyper-focused. If there were a report due, I'd stress, I'd stay late, and obsess over tiny detail. Meanwhile, my French colleagues, they're very calm, sometimes even last minute, but somehow they still manage to finish the tasks, the projects, and they still had the energy for other things. At first, I thought, wait, am I the only one stressing here? But over time, I realized their secret. They don't waste energy overthinking. They give their best effort, but they don't obsess. And they moved on. Of course, this is just my experience and it's very subjective, but I'm curious to know, what about you? If you have any experience in the French working culture, drop the comments below. But it's not just about work-life balance, it's also about how the French approach conversations. And that brings me to the second attitude. Back in the Philippines, even when I was working as a journalist, I loved a good discussion. Anytime I met someone with a different perspective, I'd get so excited, like, tell me everything. I wanted to debate, exchange ideas, and really see the world through their eyes. But here's the thing. Whenever I was out with friends, my friends would often say, let's not talk politics, let's not ruin the mood, let's talk about something else. And it felt like deep conversations were reserved only for special occasions, because otherwise it was too heavy. But here in France, it's different. Debate here isn't fighting or a personal attack. It's about exploring perspectives. You can talk politics, philosophy, culture, anything, even controversial topics over a glass of wine, and no one flinches. People expect you to share your opinion, they'll challenge you, you'll laugh, and then you move on to dessert with no grudges. And this has really opened my eyes, especially after my experiences in Asia. In Thailand, for example, talking about politics is extremely restricted. So much so that even a small insult to the king or royal family could land you in jail for 3 to 15 years. Whereas in the Philippines, it's totally different. Politics is everywhere, but it gets so personal. Some of my friends actually blocked me on Facebook a long time ago. This was way back then, just because we had different political views or opinions. In fact, political disagreements there can even break up friendships or divide families. I know it's crazy, right? So yeah, I think compared to many other cultures where disagreement is often avoided and people may shy away from discussion because critical thinking hasn't been actively nurtured. Living in France, and actually I've noticed this in other parts of Europe too, people are critical thinkers. They can navigate disagreements and are open to hearing different opinions. And no, they don't kill each other after. I'm joking. But honestly, I've come to really enjoy these conversations. And what I love about this French approach is that critical thinking isn't just a school exercise. It's a way of life. It teaches you to be curious, mindful, and confident in your thoughts while still being open to other perspectives. Okay, France's culture. And I just have to share this story with you. So recently we went to Puy du Fou. It was actually my second time, and I wouldn't mind going again and again and again because that place is just phenomenal. For those who haven't been, Puy du Fou is not your typical theme park. No roller coasters, no thrill rides. It's all about live historical shows. They recreate epic moments from history, such as Roman gladiator battles, Viking raids, medieval knights, and even grand nighttime spectacles with thousands of actors, animals, and jaw-dropping special effects. Each grand show or indoor scene tells the story of France's history from the wars, folklore, legends, literature, and entertainment shaped by its culture. So as a non-European, I felt completely immersed in the story. Almost like I was walking through history myself. To me, it wasn't just a show, it was a deeply emotional lesson about sacrifice, resilience, and passion during one of the most turbulent chapters in French history. And more than that, it gave me a new respect for how France preserves and honors its culture through storytelling, art, and memory. So after the show, I turned to my friend and said, I wish our country had preserved our culture like this. I wish we had this kind of place where every generation could learn how the Philippines evolved before and after colonization by 3 countries. I don't know, it's just, to me, it's incredible to see how everywhere you go in France or Europe in general, they've either rebuilt or preserved historical sites so that history feels alive. Of course, we have historical sites in the Philippines, but sadly, there aren't enough to educate our people or even foreigners about our rich history. Preserving and sharing these stories keeps history alive. It teaches us valuable lessons and inspire future generations to build a better, more informed society. And one of the things that made me truly appreciate life in France is their food. Tasting different flavors, learning to enjoy the whole process of making and serving it, from cooking to presentation. Honestly, before moving to Europe, I barely cook. And if I did, it's always a trifecta of soy sauce, chili, rice, and oil. I know, it's so sophisticated, right? I barely knew any cheeses either. Just goat cheese and Emmental. It's because in my home country, eating cheese isn't a real thing, and it's not part of our culinary culture. And it's safe to say, now I'm putting it out there, that I was a culinary infant, unaware of the sheer number of dairy products that could exist in one country. So here's a funny story about cheese. And this happened just 2 years ago when I was studying at a French language school. I was doing this 2-month intensive course to learn French. And part of the immersion was, of course, the French food. So one day they had this huge table filled with baguette, croissant, and staggering variety of cheeses. So we were all circling the table, picking what we want to try. And when I saw those things on the table, I was like, wow, it's a lot of cheese. And honestly, I can't even remember what exactly I grabbed. But in my infinite wisdom, I picked out 2 different kinds. The first one was fine. It was nice and mild, just how I like it. And the second one, when I tasted it, I go, oh, it's soft. It's very soft. It's melting in my mouth. And I'm thinking, okay, this is quite nice. So, a fellow student, bless her curious heart, actually, she leaned over and asked for my recommendations. So, I confidently told her that this and this one, both of them, they're good. And so she tasted the first one and she goes, okay, nice. She liked it. And then the second one, when she had it, she looked at me and she goes, Precious, it's butter. It's literally butter. She thought I was pranking her, but no, that's the truth. I wanted the ground to just swallow me whole. And it was my fault because I completely ignored the label of the cheeses on the table. I was too excited. So it was a proper reminder, I guess, that in the world of French food, not everything that looks like cheese is in fact cheese. But now, I'm happy to say that my knowledge of food has simply skyrocketed since moving here. I've learned that French gastronomy is about using the best, freshest ingredients, and there is a strong emphasis on seasonal and local products. Now, I go to the market or even grocery store to find the right ingredients, fresh meat, choose a perfect bottle of wine to pair with your meal, enjoy the apéro, and then actually cook it. But here's the thing, watching French people do this makes it look like effortless, like a scene straight out of a fancy food magazine. But when I try it, well, let's just say whenever I cook, my perfect dish usually ends up looking like a crime scene in the pan. Regardless of my dubious cooking skills, I've found a strange sense of contentment in the process. The shift from a processed food diet has made me feel surprisingly human. My mind is clearer and my energy levels are higher, proving that food isn't just fuel for a machine, but a way of nourishing the very soul. It also taught me a thing or two about patience, which is just as well because every dish seems to require a rather absurd amount of time, attention, and care. Who knew cooking was so demanding? It's all a bit much, is it? And that's a little glimpse into how living in France has changed the way I see life, conversation, history, and food. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that productivity isn't about rushing or doing more. It's about doing what matters, enjoying the process, and staying curious. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more insights into the French life. And I want to hear from you. What's one thing you've learned from a different culture that changed your life? I'm curious to know, and let me know in the comments below. I will read them all. Thank you so much for watching. À bientôt!